welcome everybody. So this is our second episode of the Young Artist Spotlight, and today we have our friend Kennlin Barlow, who's at the Indian Island Reserve. So that's super cool that we get him to join in this time. I'm just going to introduce myself a little bit. My name is Inda. I'm one fourth of the Woven Cultures team. We also have Wenda here, who is helping me monitor some of the chats if anybody makes comments or questions. So welcome everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to be recording this on for YouTube as well, so you can watch it later. So Kennlin, thanks for being here, man. I think the last time that I saw you, it was like last summer. It's been that long.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was the barbecue we had at the Moncton. It was the park, something like that.
Yeah,
I can't remember. Yeah.
yeah. Life has been so busy and time goes by so quickly, but
Mhm,
I'm so glad that we're able to catch up through here at least.
mhm.
So for the audience who doesn't know you yet, can you share a little bit about yourself?
I'm a filmmaker from Indian Island First Nations, and I've been doing films since I was 13. But I wanted to become a filmmaker since I was probably 4 or 5 years old. Unfortunately, our family, we didn't have much money back then, so we weren't able to afford a video camera. But then we finally got one when I was 13, and I just immediately started filming movies, and I haven't stopped. Um, I did a lot of short films on YouTube, and then when I was 19 years old, I started a production company, which is 2007 Films, and I started making these short films that are typically non-narrative. They're very art house, and they started out as music videos, and then they kind of morphed into something else.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since then, I think that ever since finding that production company, really kind of started off my career at the moment, which is it's small at the moment, like right now, but I've had a few successes and a few good things come along, so I'm really happy about that. um
That's awesome.
mhm. i think that's I think that's all. I know there's more. We're gonna keep talking, so
Yeah, we're gonna chat more after this. But we are going to first watch your film. All right. So, do you want to introduce a little bit what 1230 is? That was showing at the Indigenous Film Festival at St. Thomas last year, right?
yeah. 1230 was never really, it was just something that I had my camera with me. I ended up going on a trip, like a vacation to Ontario, and this was kind of like first, more of the second time I started filming after I had a very lengthy battle with depression, and I just started filming. We were in Niagara Falls, and I was filming everything, and I was never really sure if something was going to come out of it. Um, and then after, when I got back home, I just started editing it, and I just put all this footage together that I had got there, and it was and then it kind of became what it was. But it's not a narrative. I wouldn't really consider it documentary. It can be categorized as documentary, but it's not. Documentary is not something I really do as much.
Mm-hmm.
um but these clips, like the conversation in the car and all that, these were like just things that I happened to capture, um and decided to kind of keep in there, like um um so yeah, like it's nothing really. It wasn't a really big film, a part of my filmography, but it was a big milestone for me, coming out of my depression and actually able to film something again. That was, so I think that film is very metaphorical on that. And yeah.
It's a little bit of a triumphant story, I guess, for yourself.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Cool. So, Kellen, tell me more. Were you in an Uber? Was that why there was like
Um,
three voices or
yeah, it wasn't an Uber, it was a taxi I randomly caught.
okay.
And I was in the midst of filming, and I was like, I'm gonna keep filming, and I'm just gonna film the street. And I wasn't sure how I was gonna, because I remember talking to the taxi driver, and I was like, oh, I
Mhm.
usually don't include audio in this, and I wasn't going to. I was gonna overdub it with something. And but the conversation I had with the taxi driver and the passenger who was also in there,
Mhm.
uh it was just very, to me, very heartwarming, because we were both we were both like foreign to that area, and we both were like from different places. And we started talking, asking each other questions. And and I just decided to leave that conversation in the short film, because um it was just something I really, it was very different from kind of like what I used to create, because I would never include like a real conversation. And depending on, legal um legal things, like I wasn't sure, I was never going to see them again, I was never going to meet them again. And even though we don't I don't have their names or their faces in there, I just wanted to leave that audio in there. And yeah.
I love that conversation. It was just, I don't know, in a way, it's typical living here in Canada because there's so many people from so many different places, and
Hmm.
not everybody knows different parts of Canada. So when you're like, I'm from New Brunswick, and
Hmm.
other people are like, oh my God, it snows so much over there. And that's all I know where you're from. So I was like, oh, that's so cute. And yeah, it's like, kind of trying to guess where people are from their accents and stuff. It does it. I guess it just, it's kind of human nature in a way to want to
Hmm.
know about the background of someone, but not everybody is okay with that sometimes,
Yeah,
because some people have lived here for years and would have an accent.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like, just be like um uh oh, I forgot what I was gonna say. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna have like brain farts like that. Like if I forget what I'm gonna say, just keep going and keep asking me
When you
questions.
remember, just like go, hey, I remember.
Yeah.
What was there a reason that the whole film was in black and white?
Um there's a really simple reason to that, and it's because I don't know how to do color correction. And I never really was an expertise in that. And I did have a few friends who do it, but
Yeah,
it would have costed me money, and it
right.
was just something very short that I had to do. And um, I actually think I did shoot it in black and white. Like, I didn't film it in color; it was shot in black and white. And
You, sorry, go ahead.
it's just something that it's very sometimes it's very appealing to me. I really love the textures that you get out of black and white films. So it's uh oh.
Right. So the film, you were saying that it was kind of your out of depression film. You told me before that mental health is one of the things that kind of inspires you in your work. Can you tell me how this art form, why you chose this art form, and how it has helped you with how you cope with life?
um I guess metaphorically, like with my whole life, I've always been an outsider to things, and I've always been the person to analyze things. And I've never been one to be involved with like activities or anything. I'm always the person watching the stuff. Like I never hung out with a lot of friends. I've never like you know did activities. And um I was always a very quiet person,
Hmm.
and I was more analyzing things than talking. So it was like all this like this imagery, I guess, just kind of built up throughout my life. Um and on top of that, while watching films, it was like I was always having these like I guess just like a dream to make a movie. And um and when I became a teenager, like I started filming when I was 13, but that year things started to change. And when I turned 14, I started entering like a depression, and it was and it was something that it was so new to me, and and that's when I started becoming suicidal. I attempted suicide,
Mhm.
um, and that happened several times throughout my teenage years. And I was always struggling because I was alone, and the only thing that kept me sane sometimes was movies, like watching movies. And because I was so far away from everything, I didn't have people to help me out with these filmmaking. Like it always had to be me. I couldn't rely on people around, and so I started doing short films with just me doing different characters, and then was just shooting random stuff. And uh, I live in a certain area in Indian Island where um, we are like on a corner, like almost like we have like this 360 view in my area where we get to see the sea, we get to see the sea, we get to see the islands, and we get to see this gigantic sky. And I wake up every morning and I see this beautiful sunrise, and then before going to bed I see this beautiful sunset, and then at night you see just this gigantic stars. Um and I always, and it always appealed to me, like I always had to capture it on camera like every time. Um and that, like, nature really helped me out through that depression. And then all of a sudden it was like filmmaking got simultaneously involved in all three of those things. And that's what kind of kept me going.
Mhm.
And then finally it was like I had these goals where I wanted to make a feature film before I was 18, and that didn't happen. And then I kept setting these goals, and then finally it's like here I am, 26 years old, and I'm hopefully shooting my feature film next summer. And um so all of that really kind of tied in together. And it's a meditation when I film, like just fixating the lens, the framing. Um and sometimes it's like I would just leave the camera running like for 10, like probably 10 to 15 minutes on just one frame.
Mm.
And it I would never upload the full thing, but obviously I would try to keep a lot of it on the short film, whatever I shot, because I wasn't. It was never really sure what you could capture in that time frame,
Mhm.
like lighting. I had a film called Rabbi Lippa Medjuck where I had focused on a pole that was on a wharf. And while I was filming it, I had filmed it for like 10 minutes. And throughout that 10 minutes, the sun was getting blocked by clouds.
Mhm.
And when the clouds opened up, the sun just reflected on the beam back and forth, kept doing that, and it kept glowing.
Yeah.
And I just had kept that on for like 10, 15 minutes. And I ended up adding that to the film. And I added about 6 minutes. And even though it's very long, um, it's just something that I always wanted to keep on my work, like just that real time, because especially with my mental illness, it's like sometimes feels like it goes by so fast.
Mm.
Like a whole day can feel like an hour to me. And the only thing that helps me slow time down is filmmaking, movies, watching movies.
Mhm.
Uh, helps me feel time.
Mhm.
And then films, you have filmmakers like Chantal Ackerman, a French feminist filmmaker from the 1970s.
Mhm.
She made this epic 3 hour feminist film called Jeanne Delmin, which was a woman, um, a widowed housewife who was doing chores around her house. And she made a 3 hour film of someone just doing house chores.
Mhm.
And throughout the film you can see, like, you get adjusted to these characters um daily routine.
Mhm.
And then slowly throughout the 3 hours, you see her routine slowly become disorganized. And then obviously I can't spoil the ending, but that's something to leave up to the viewers. And I think it's, and ever since watching that film, it was like my whole life has changed
Mhm.
after that. And I think that's why a lot of my film work is always dedicated, pretty much dedicated to Chantal Ackerman, who unfortunately also suffered from depression,
Mhm.
and she took her own life in 2015, and that was pretty devastating for me too, because she was a big idol for me. And but yeah, it's something that I always keep her close to my heart. So
You mentioned that that 360 view on Indian Island was something that kind of inspires you too. So, can you share a little bit how your cultural heritage and your home also um, influences your work, your artwork?
um I guess it's like in a lot of my work, I'm not necessarily like doing a lot of stuff about like my heritage. I guess it's just I'm more filming the environment than anything, but it's always, I always kind of go back to that because I realize, like, my ancestors and my heritage is all about nature. It's all about being connected with the earth. And even though I'm not straight out, doing indigenous films about indigenous people, there's an indigenous aspect to that where I'm always filming the earth, and it's like, um, and I always feel close with it. I always feel close with what imagery I need to shoot, and
Mhm.
I always feel interconnected with that. And I think that's how me being indigenous really connects into my work.
Mhm.
Um, but Indian Island's one of the most beautiful places I've ever. I'm so blessed to live here, and we have an island across from us, which is the actual Indian Island. And that's where our ancestors lived. Our ancestors lived, and then the river that we have between us kind of connects, and then on the other side of that island is more islands, then the ocean, and
Wow.
it's a breathtaking view that we have here. And um, it's like growing up, my father always tells me stories about our the history and everything, and it's something I never really got to yet. It's something I always want to. Hopefully, when I do get funding for future feature films, that I'll be able to tell something, to do a film about my ancestors.
Mhm.
And yeah, then that's how it's all kind of interconnected,
Mhm.
metaphorically, really.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Um, your films have been in a few festivals as well, Mancanti and the one that we just saw, 12:30, and Rabbi Lippa Medjuck also, right?
Rabbi Lippa Medjuck was going to, and then both Rabbi Lippa Medjuck and 12:30 got canceled by the COVID-19. Yeah. So so it kind of just, I was like, I'm just gonna put them on the internet, and I did. So
Yeah. Since you've been making films to, just for yourself and for others to watch as well, for a while now, what kind of tips would you give to other people who may, other young people who may want to express themselves to through film?
um uh just for people in general, or just indigenous artists, like
Both. Yeah.
both?
Both.
um it's really hard. I'm terrible at giving advice, really.
What's
um
something that maybe you've learned from your own experience that you can share that would be useful for others?
um I think this is cliche, but just don't listen to discouragement. And I think that's a big thing with everything. But like growing up, I experienced like mild forms of racism towards like my art, and uh like people just not really believing in me, and making fun of my work. And that did discourage me at first, but things always came through after. And I think an indigenous artist, an actress. She came to my school once, And when I was helping her out with loading things into her car after her presentation, I asked her what advice would you give me for going into this industry, and she said, "Get used to rejection." And I was like, "Okay, okay." And not I was like, it kind of stuck in my mind, but I was like, I'm not gonna let that get to me. And yeah, that really got to me. Like when I entered this industry, there was always rejection around the corner. And it's not flat out rejection. It's like, oh, you're not a good filmmaker. It's like it's more like, oh, we want to help out your film. And but it's like we don't have either enough funding, or your work is not strong enough, or you're breaking some rules that we don't like, which obviously I'm not breaking all the rules, but because of the form I make with my films, our house cinema is typically not appreciated here in New Brunswick. So when I broke the rules on narrative film here in New Brunswick, I got kicked in the ass for that.
Mm.
And I got kicked in the ass, I got blacklisted. And but obviously I came back from that. I guess I just want to let people know, like any artist upcoming artists, is that you'll get kicked in the ass just like me, but keep going. There's always going to be new opportunities. Maybe the opportunity will reopen. uh just keep going, because it's the road to success. I'm not exactly there yet, but like it's not a stairway that goes up like that. It's like it's
Yep.
everywhere. Holy shit. And I'm in between here somewhere, and it's still a struggle, but just keep swimming, like Dory.
Like Dory, I was gonna
Like
say. Yes.
keep swimming like Dory.
But you know what? That's good advice for anything and anyone, I guess. Like
Mhm.
we're always gonna face rejections in life, and to be resilient is a characteristic that we all have to build, I guess.
Mhm.
If anybody have any questions or comments that you can just send it on the chat as we chat here. Kennlin, what do you have on your plate right now that you're working on?
My first feature film,
Great.
actually. I It's called The Green Waterways, and it's a semi-autobiography of a young queer male's coming of age story. And it's really focused on like just uh him discovering his sexuality, and battling mental illness with uh and like I can't really explain a lot of it right now because I'm going through rewrites, but
Mhm.
I guess that in general, because I do have a script, but we're planning hopefully to like improvise a lot of stuff. And um and the film will really focus on like on first love, and uh films that really inspired that would probably be a film called Stranger by the Lake, which is kind of different from like LGBT films, because it's actually a thriller. My
Mhm.
film's not a thriller, but the film really is very explicit in a sense, because I really like directors who don't really turn away from scenes that are will scare away audiences. And um, like in Stranger by the Lake, like all the love scenes are real.
Mhm.
And that's something like I've been trying to make The Green Waterways for about 4 or 5 years now, and that's always been something that I've been having struggling with this feature, was trying to find casting, trying to find funding. Um, the film has a lot of explicit content because we do want to shoot with unsimulated sex, and it made it difficult for us to find money for that and actors for that. And uh, right now, I'm applying to Telefilm Canada. Hopefully, right now it's like I'm at a Talent to Watch. and I hear back in June whether or not June or July I get the grant. Hopefully, um,
Fingers crossed.
and if not, hopefully I'll be able to shoot like a more toned down version. Other than that, because these past 2 years, I was gonna shoot the film without a budget,
Mm.
and I had a person on board for the lead actor, Ryan O'Toole, who is
Mhm.
actually in this conversation right now. He is the flower or the fish. I think it's a fish. Uh, and we were so down for shooting these past few years, and then but uh, I put out about like 10,000. I spent $10,000 on the film so far, on budgeting, like on a camera system, computer system, and it's like one after the other. There's always something that pops up that's like, you're probably gonna need another 20 to 30,000 for this, and I'm like, shit. and and then it just came to a point like and then I think 2019, 2020, that's when I started looking forward uh to uh telefilm, and I was always worried about going to telefilm because of the explicit content in the film. But when I actually got to meet the people in there, they were like very open to it, and
Mhm.
they understood my vision, and they're like, oh, I think this is perfect. And
Mm.
hopefully, that's all goes and say, like, if I get the grant or not. But um it made me more comfortable to submit the film,
Mhm.
and so hopefully, things go good on that. And um yeah.
Awesome. Well, good. Best of luck. Can't wait to. Hopefully, we'll be able to see that soon, and everything happens for you for that film. I wish we can keep chatting and chatting and chatting, and I wish we can like just hang out in real life as well. But unfortunately, time is limited, and but we're really thankful that you're willing to do this with us, and we're able to sort of share this platform. Um, of your work and also your thoughts with us, and how film has helped you with your mental health. So for those who don't know, you can follow Kennlin on social media. Follow him on Instagram at Kennlin2007, and on Facebook, you can follow him at 2007 Films. Thanks to everyone who has tuned in. We will have another episode very soon. We're gonna take a little break next week because we are going to be celebrating Eid. The three people in our team are all going to be celebrating Eid. So keep following us on Facebook, on Instagram, and YouTube. We'll upload this recording of our chat today. On It's at Woven Cultures on our social media, so you won't miss the announcements. So follow us, take care, be well, and peace out. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.